For today's show, we look into how Pfizer donated $1 million to the Republican Party of Kentucky to expand its headquarters. I wonder what happens when Big Pharma gives you money. Some other people to ask would be Michael Phelps, paid partnership with Pfizer Inc. on Instagram, the pop singer Pink, paid partnership with Pfizer Inc. on Instagram, and Jamie Lee Curtis posting a picture of Questlove from The Roots and the Jimmy Fallon Show talking about Pfizer Inc. for an ad. It looks like Pfizer's making it rain with their money, getting celebrities, Republicans, and Democrats to do their bidding. We'll talk about that and also this recent headline that the FDA will no longer require all drugs to be tested on animals before human trials. What? This bill was signed by President Biden in December as part of a larger spending package and was actually sponsored by Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky to apparently protect the suffering and death of animal test subjects and get safer, more effective drugs to the market more quickly by cutting red tape that is not supported by current science. Do you think it's a good idea to remove the requirement to test on animals before humans? Do you think Rand Paul has good intentions or he sold out? Let me know what you think in the comments section. We'll talk about that and more on today's show. It starts now.
It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. Yeah.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's show, Dream Rare Podcast. We have a few stories today. A bunch of celebrities posted Pfizer Inc. ads on Instagram. The Republican Party from Kentucky took $1 million from Pfizer donation. And then also I want to get into the FDA story where they are now no longer requiring animal trials before human trials. And before you think it's just Democrats doing it, Biden signed the bill as part of the spending bill. But Senator Rand Paul sponsored it because of animal rights, apparently. We're going to talk about that. But let's start with the first story. So it came out in, Kentucky news that Pfizer donated $1 million to the Republican Party of Kentucky to expand its headquarters. I'm just going to read the article. It's really short. It's like less than a paragraph. It says the Kentucky Republican Party has gotten one of its largest donations ever from drug maker Pfizer. Great. The Kentucky Lantern reports that Pfizer gave $1 million to the GOP building fund. Most corporate contributions are banned in Kentucky, but a 2017 law allows them for building funds. The state GOP could use that money for an expansion of its headquarters in Frankfort, named for the Republican U.S. Senate leader Mitch McConnell. So they got $1 million through some sort of 2015, skady law that says that you can only donate money if you donate it for buildings. So now Pfizer's going to give Mitch McConnell and the Republican Party in Kentucky $1 million to build. I wonder what happens when you get $1 million from Pfizer. Do you think you just build something and Pfizer goes away and says, thanks, we just wanted, us here at Pfizer, we just want to help the Republican Party because we love Republicans here at Pfizer. Do you think that's what happens? Or do you think it's more like, hey, here's $1 million. Now you have to do something for us, and we get to dictate your policy. Doesn't take a rocket scientist, but apparently it does. And here's Neil deGrasse Tyson. No, I'm just kidding. But, we're going to talk about that a little bit later. So that story pretty much sells itself. Speaking of Kentucky, I don't know if this is coincidental because Rand Paul's from Kentucky. I don't know if this is connected to that. Probably not, but who knows? This came out in NPR recently. The FDA no longer requires all drugs to be tested on animals before human trials. So just making it even easier for the Operation Warp Speed industry of Big Pharma to essentially skate the law and go right to human trials before animal trials. And if you remember from the booster, I think the one they rolled out in the winter, there was mainstream reporting from NBC News and everything that said that somehow got to the people without even human trials. They said that the human trials weren't even completed when the new drug, whatever it's called, came out. So it's like sometimes they don't do human trials. Now they cannot do animal trials. I don't know what's going on. But if you read the article, it actually says Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky sponsored the FDA Modernization Act 2.0. Said in a statement that the law will help end the needless suffering and death of animal test subjects and will get safer, more effective drugs to the market more quickly by cutting red tape that's not supported by current science. PETA cheered this new law as a radical shift in how new drugs and treatments will be created. Signed into law by President Biden in December as part of a larger spending package, the law doesn't ban the testing of new drugs on animals. So, long story short, you don't have to test on animals, but you still can. It's not like it's just not forcing you to do that. I did a poll on Twitter, I did a poll on Instagram, and both the polls, like between 80 to 90% said this is a bad idea to skip animal trials before human trials. I want to say same thing on Instagram and Twitter. So maybe like 10 to 15% were saying it is good to not test on animals. You know, the both sides of the argument would be the animal lovers would say, and just people in general would say, an animal can't consent, so you shouldn't test on an animal because they can't consent to the test. And the other side would obviously say this is just making it easier for big pharma to Operation Warp Speed as many products as they want without even clearing animal testing. What do you think? I think the wokeness account on Twitter, I forget the exact name, End Wokeness, put it well when he said, you know, you are the new lab rat now. If they don't have to test on lab rats, then, and they don't test on lab rats or some other animal, you are the animal. So I see both sides of the argument. Some people want to save the animals. Some people are concerned. Me personally, you know, I'd rather have animal testing, to be honest, but I see both sides. I want to show a few more things and then we're going to move on. This is Michael Phelps. I hope it was worth it, Michael, because your entire, I'm not going to say your sporting legacy, but I would say your character has now been tarnished. I hope they paid you a lot of money. You could see it says paid by Pfizer Inc. And I'm going to read what he wrote because it's very bizarre. I'm wondering if Michael Phelps came up with this himself or he was fed this paragraph. I'm guessing he was fed this paragraph. Michael Phelps said on his Pfizer Inc. Paid ad, he said, I've been working on something that I could finally share with you. It wasn't until recently that I learned my struggle with depression puts me at a high risk for severe COVID-19. Taking care of my health is so important to me. It makes me a better dad, husband, son, and friend. That's why I'm partnering with Pfizer Inc. to encourage people to know what risk factors could put them at high risk for getting very sick from COVID-19. So Michael Phelps is saying, you know, I have depression, and depression puts you at a high risk from COVID-19. Here's the crazy part. First of all, I want to say Michael Phelps left his comment section open, so feel free to comment. He's getting absolutely destroyed. I'm going to show you Pink later in a second. She did a Pfizer ad too, and she smartly turned her comments off because the public knows what's up, and leaving your comments open, there's lots of truth going on in Michael Phelps's comment section, and it's not in his direction. But in general, it's like this scheme is just so sick. They lock you in your house for 3 months. You know, I'm starting to think that the lockdowns were part of a marketing tactic. It's like, how do you scare people? How do you make them fat? How do you make them depressed? And they could call it a conspiracy theory and they could cover it up. And, you know, when it's all said and done, they're like, we were slowing the spread to build the Javits Center up, but then we didn't use it. And we brought in a bunch of ships to LA and NYC, and then we really didn't use them. And then, you know, we opened up and we forced back. Yeah, I know the whole story, but it's like, what a convenient marketing strategy, whether it was purposeful or not, for big pharma to lock people in their house, make them depressed, get them unhealthy, get them scared, get them nervous. And then you roll out a product and you get Michael Phelps coming around saying, are you depressed like everybody in this country now? Because the kids are just like jacked up on, you know, brainwash stuff. They don't like play outside anymore. I would say depression is probably at an all-time high in this country. And then Michael Phelps comes around to sell Pfizer. Are you depressed? If you're depressed, you know, I'm not going to tell you to swim. I'm not going to tell you to get out and get some exercise and some sunlight, maybe some new friends, try a new fitness routine, or, you know, maybe you're just like in a bad relationship or like work is tough. No. If you're depressed, you know, talk to Pfizer because that's a risk factor for COVID-19. So I read this one because out of all the celebrity ads, that was like the wildest one. They're now saying depression puts you at a higher risk for COVID-19. I mean, Michael Phelps, you're one of the greatest athletes in modern history in Olympic stats. I hope it was worth it, bro. I hope you were broke. Maybe you smoked too much pot or something. You wasted all your money on the best strands in California and you really needed the money. Like, I hope it was worth it, dude, because you're a legend and no one could take away your accomplishments, but you just tarnished your entire character and soul for a Pfizer ad. I mean, and trying to tell depressed people to go to Pfizer. I mean, you should be ashamed of yourself, Michael Phelps. You're such a loser. It's like, I don't even take pride in being cooler than these people anymore, because Michael Phelps is cool. He's one of the coolest people ever. But it's like, I'm cooler than Michael Phelps because I'm not a sellout loser like him, and I'm not proud of it. It's sad. Like, I'm all my heroes and people that I looked up to are just such losers. It's like Jimmy Fallon. Hey, everybody, I'm with the Root. Like, the Roots are one of the greatest. I'll get to them in a second. They're one of the greatest hip hop bands of all time. One of the only hip hop bands, because like usually hip hops don't have full band behind them, but the Roots are amazing. I mean, great lyrics, great sound. I mean, how much are they getting paid to work for Jimmy Fallon and sell Pfizer? I'm not sure. Anyway, here's the next one. Pink, who I never really cared that much for. I mean, I don't hate her, but add some scenes behind what I've been up to lately with Pfizer Inc. And she has asthma apparently, so Pfizer tapped into her to get to the asthma. If you have asthma, you're at higher risk. If you're depressed, you have high risk. They're paying off McConnell and the Republicans. Where are they getting all this money from? And I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I want to explain to people why Republicans always lose. It's like the people that'll say, oh, it's not the Republican Party's fault. It's not Trump's fault because they didn't mandate it. It's like, how do you think Pfizer got so much money off this product? First of all, I don't think Pfizer got money from Operation Warp Speed, but Moderna did, AstraZeneca did, Johnson & Johnson, Novavax. A lot of the companies, it's not like a free market capitalist creation that they came up with. The government funneled them like $20 billion. Imagine if the government built a bunch of health facilities around the country and exercise things for kids. We would be less fat. But instead of building exercise units, Donald Trump gave the money to Big Pharma. He's complicit. Okay. Now, how does Pfizer get its product? Did you go buy it? No, it's all free. Why is it all free? Everything's free. You get a free vaccine, free donuts, free McDonald's, free fries. Why is it free? Because it's not free because Donald Trump used his executive power to buy the product. He bought 100 million or 200 million Pfizer doses. So there's nothing about this that is capitalist. There's nothing about this that's a Republican or libertarian or free market. It's like a socialist communist scam. And Donald Trump is a big pharma socialist communist. He did all this with government money. And that's why Pfizer got the money. And now that Pfizer has all the government money they got from Trump and Biden, how are they using the money they got? They're using it on propaganda. So the Republicans feed them the money. They get the money, they push propaganda, and then Republicans fight the propaganda and say that Trump's not a part of it. It's like watering a tree, and then the tree gets huge, and I'm the guy watering the tree, and I'm like, it's not me, it's not me, it's not me. It is you. It is the Republican Party. It is Mitch McConnell. It is Trump. And I'm going to get into that later, but people don't want to address it at the source. That's why nothing gets done with the fake two-party system, including Trump, not excluding Trump. Here's the last one. I don't know why Jamie Lee Curtis posted a picture of Questlove. If you might notice Questlove from Jimmy Fallon. He's the drummer for the Jimmy Fallon show. And a lot of people don't know this, but Questlove's not just like a random backing drummer for Jimmy Fallon. The Roots are one of the best hip hop bands of all time. He's probably the best hip hop drummer of all time. I don't even know who could compete with him, maybe Anderson .Paak or something. But, they're like a legendary, great band, and they, I guess, work for Jimmy Fallon, got a lot of Hollywood money. But why is Jamie Lee Curtis posting a Questlove picture? Like, why can't she post her own picture? But she did some sort of ad. Big things coming in 2023. Y'all know when I was taking on a project, it represents something really important to me. So I've shared the news that I'm joining up with Pfizer Inc. Pfizer just went on a making it rain on celebrities, making it rain on Republicans. It's just unbelievable. So now I want to bring up something that I said because I saw Emerald Robinson, who got banned from Twitter for her, quote unquote conspiracy theories or big pharma criticism. I would say the latter, but the news would say the first. We're glad, and by we, I mean me and anybody else who agrees with me, we're glad to have Emerald Robinson back on Twitter because she's unapologetic. She does not mince her words, and she goes the distance on a lot of things. And actually, Emerald Robinson was the reason I found out that Pfizer paid $1 million to the Kentucky Republicans. I didn't know that. I found it on Twitter, and then I cross-referenced the research, found the articles, and then did that. So thank you, Emerald Robinson, for everything you do, but thank you for sharing that information. So I posted as the top comment because everybody's freaking out that Pfizer paid $1 million to Republicans in Kentucky because everyone knows when Pfizer gives the money, they get something in return. They're not just paying Mitch McConnell. We all know that. That's how lobbying works. That's how big pharma works. That's how government works. That's how we know that, right? Keep this in mind because I'm going to show you something that's going to blow people's minds. And for some reason, people have been brainwashed into not caring about this. So this is 2017. Donald Trump took $1 million, the same as Mitch McConnell and the Kentucky GOP. He had Pfizer finance his inauguration, just like they had Pfizer build a building or give them money to build. It's the same sort of thing. They find their little loopholes of like, here, I'll give you $1 million for your inauguration. Here, I'll give you $1 million to build. So Donald Trump got bought off by Big Pharma also. And here's the thing that people don't understand is he was actually a skeptic of vaccinations and he was an advocate for vaccine injured people. He was very big on it. And he was going to work with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to establish some sort of vaccine safety coalition. But as soon as Donald Trump took $1 million from Pfizer, he did the art of the deal to side with the swamp instead of the people. And then he hired two swampers to run our government. He hired Scott Gottlieb. You might recognize Scott from the Twitter files of all him trying to silence people opposed to the vaccine. Trump, look at these two articles from 2017, right after his inauguration, or right around the same time. Trump chose Gottlieb to run the FDA. Pharma breathes a sigh of relief. Trump to select Gottlieb, a physician with deep drug industry ties. So who is Scott Gottlieb? What ties does he have? Maybe you know him from trying to silence Twitter users of criticism of efficacy. It came out in Elon's Twitter files recently. Scott Gottlieb used to be on some sort of board or some sort of council with GlaxoSmithKline, one of the biggest pharmacy companies ever. Donald Trump, with the swamp money that he took from Pfizer, apparently decided to take Scott Gottlieb, and Scott Gottlieb left the FDA after a few years of working under Trump after he did what he needed to do. And guess where Scott Gottlieb went? You'll never guess where he went. Oh, you might guess. Just easy. Oh, Pfizer. He went to Pfizer and he's on their independent, board. I forget the name of the board. So Trump hired a pharmacy swamper from GlaxoSmithKline to run the FDA for 2 years before leaving to go right back to Pfizer. And then Scott apparently was trying to silence certain Twitter users and use his power and leverage to Twitter to shut people up. Who did Donald Trump pick to run the HHS? These are the people who declare the emergency. Trump doesn't declare the emergency and Biden doesn't declare the emergency. It's their HHS secretary, technically. Donald Trump picked an ex-pharmacy lobbyist/executive, Alex Azar, who worked for Eli Lilly. So after Trump took $1 million from Pfizer, he just hired a bunch of big pharma swampers, just like an establishment loser. And when I posted that on Emerald Robinson's thing, I just wanted to see people's reaction because it's important. Because we have to establish this or else our party means nothing. Just like people got brainwashed and got like a left-wing mind virus against Donald Trump, there's a lot of people that are brainwashed and have a mind virus like brainwashed by Donald Trump. And I'm going to explain in a second. There's nobody on the right wing who disagrees when $1 million goes to Mitch McConnell and Kentucky Republicans. They are giving something in return. Pfizer doesn't just give that much money for no reason. Here's a comment. I just want to read it from Twitter. LEB Kando. He said, I would like to point out the strategy here. The art of the deal incorporates working with and trying to change things together, regardless of the sinful nature. God can change mine instantly. So pointing out that Trump took money from anyone is stupid, in my opinion. So you have to understand this guy is highly critical of Mitch McConnell for taking $1 million. But when Trump takes $1 million, God will change the minds. It's stupid to point out pharmacy lobbyism when Donald Trump gets lobbied. It's just stupid to point out the lobbyists control Donald Trump. God will do it, not the It's like, dude, people have been mind virus brainwashed by Donald Trump. It's embarrassing. And it's like, he's becoming an issue because if millions of people are so brainwashed by him, where it's like, Mitch McConnell took $1 million from Pfizer. Oh, that's terrible. That's corrupt. Donald Trump took $1 million from Pfizer. Oh, that's God. That's God. I mean, you got to keep your friends close and your enemies closer. You got to give your enemies position in the White House. You got to let your enemies take over the country. You got to let your enemies do big pharma communism. You got to sell vaccines for your enemies. You got to become the enemy. It's like, guys, people are losing their minds over this guy. Literally, he's one of my least favorite people now because he's brainwashed the people in this country that are supposed to actually do something. How are we ever going to hold Big Pharma accountable if there's one person in the Republican Party that could take money from Big Pharma and nobody wants to talk about it and they want to make up these alternate universe theories about how it's so silly It's so silly to talk about Pfizer. Sorry, if Pfizer paid Trump and McConnell more money than I have in my bank account. You get what I'm saying? It's like, that's not a big deal. You don't think if Big Pharma gave me $100,000, $50,000, $10,000, $1 million, you don't think they'd want something in return? You think they just give it to me? That's not how it works. Not with Trump, not with McConnell, not with any of them. So it's like people really got to wake up, because if this is how the next 5 years is going to go, it's clear that Trump is controlled opposition. I don't know if he's purposely that or he's become that because of his ego, or if people just like the left wing. Elon Musk calls it a mind virus. He says the left wing, they're so scrambled in the brain. It's like a mind virus. Like, they're wrong about almost everything. They're egotistical about it. You can't, it's like something's wrong with these people. And I'm not trying to knock it. It is what it is. But like, something's wrong with the left wing in this country. They need to wake up, because it's not like right wingers are right about everything, but it's like, what in the world happened to you after Donald Trump got in? Something scrambled in your brain. It's never been the same for the Rob Reiners. Same thing with a lot of people who worship Trump. They have a mind virus also. If you can't look at him taking $1 million and hiring a bunch of swampers and say, hey, just like Mitch McConnell could get sold out to pharma, it looks like Trump did. I mean, all the evidence is there. He took the money, he hired the lobbyists, he did Operation Warp Speed, he gave him $20 billion of socialist, communist funny money. He bought their product, and now they're running propaganda on you with the money they got from the Trump administration. Oh, but that's just art of the deal. It's stupid to even talk about how it's like, it's becoming a massive issue on the right wing. It's like people have lost their minds over this person. And I see more and more people coming around because the truth is just so obvious. And the point I want to make before we move on is, you got to call out the lobbyists, whoever they go after. You can't say, well, I like Barack Obama because he plays basketball and he's a cool guy, so when he starts a war or takes money, I don't want to call it out because I fell in love with the character Barack Obama. He's so cool. He likes Kendrick Lamar. Oh my gosh, Obama's so cool that he's so different when he takes the lobbying money and bombs 7 countries. Like, no, he's not different. He's just a puppet. And the reason he won president is because he's good at his job. He's a good car salesman. Metaphorically, he's a good person to make you think he's your friend when he's doing exactly what George Bush did. I mean, George Bush Jr., Barack Obama, and Bill Clinton all came together to sell the vaccine together. I was like, is there any more clear vision of the uniparty than that video? Okay. Then Donald Trump comes around, and now you got right wingers doing the same thing. They're like, well, when Donald Trump takes $1 million from Pfizer and hires a bunch of Pfizer swampers and gives them $20 billion of socialist money and runs around the country selling their product, he didn't get sold out like Mitch McConnell and Obama. He's different. It's like, what part of the two-party system are you not getting? It's like people have gotten brainwashed by Donald Trump. We've been talking about it for 2 years now, and comments like that just prove it. It's like, dude, that's how politics work. Stop falling in love with the car salesman. Stop falling in love with the politician. Whether it's Rand Paul, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Barack Obama, Ron DeSantis, Thomas Massey, Matt Gaetz, anybody, regardless of who it is, follow the money. I'm telling you guys, I've explained this before, but I sell my dreamrare.com products. Why? Because it's my company. I own it. I have somebody I work with, a merch company and a distribution company, but besides that, it's mine. There's a reason I'm selling it. I like the products and it's my company. Anytime you see me sell another product, unless I'm just talking about it, winging it, if I do an ad, it's because they're paying me. Yeah, I'm not selling out. I'm very sensitive. I've probably lost like 6 figures worth of money because I won't just sell everything like every other influencer. I'm picky about it, and I'd never sell my soul. But yeah, if I like a product, if I decide it's good and I would use it myself, then I'll sell it. But I'm not doing it for free. They're paying me. That's the deal. So when Pfizer gives someone $1 million, there's a deal there, guys. I wouldn't do it. If Pfizer came to me and said, $1 billion, anomaly, we'll make you a billionaire if you start selling your product like Donald Trump, I would say no. Donald Trump is the vaccine salesman. He sells Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer. He's sold out. It's so obvious. I mean, what part of the last 2 years he's run? Guys, I would never do that one time. I don't care how much. They could offer me $1 trillion. They said I could run the banks. I don't want to sell that product. I would never do that. My integrity and my vision and my soul is worth a price, and it's not. I'm not going to, take that. It's like there's a price to pay when you take money to do something. Sorry, I worded it wrong. You get what I'm saying. But it's like, that's how politics work. Why are people allergic from calling out Donald Trump for the same thing? I don't know. I'm excited for my conversation and debate with my old friend David Harris. Hopefully, he reaches out. I'm going to reach out to the person that he put me in contact with soon. I like David. He showed me love before a lot of people show me love. We have a good friendship to some extent. It's not like we see each other all the time, but we like each other. I'm excited to get David on the platform because I want to ask him what him and all these other influencers are doing, turning a blind eye to the corruption and the pharmacy lobbying money of Donald Trump. I don't understand why a lot of people don't want to talk about it. I think I do, but I'm willing to have a friendly debate and a conversation about it. So, long story short, whoever the politician is, whether it's McConnell or Trump, we have to call this out. If we don't, our movement is useless. You got brainwashed by the politician. With that being said, I want to ask you guys real quick, and I'm going to keep this one under 40 minutes for sure. But when it comes to Rand Paul, what do you think about him pushing the FDA doesn't have to test on animals? Do you think that Rand Paul is truly an animal lover and just like loves animals and doesn't want them to get hurt? Do you think he really thinks that Big Pharma needs to cut the tape? Or do you think he's also co opted by Big Pharma and he's just pushing that narrative to let them get away with murder, both metaphorically and possibly literally? I don't know. Let me know what you think. I remember last year, Rand Paul did a video where he's like, "Oh, they need to cut the red tape on these new vaccines." And I'm thinking two things. Either one, Rand Paul thinks the newer vaccine or the other, like maybe the Novavax or something. Like you barely hear about the Novavax vaccine, but it is out there and you can get it, I think. But like you don't hear about it. Maybe Rand Paul thinks that that's a better vaccine than the Pfizer Moderna, and that's why he's saying that. But to me, it reeked of him being sold out. Like, bro, out of everything going on when there was mask mandates, vaccine mandates going on, all of this stuff was affecting our country. And Rand Paul's on television talking about how they need to cut red tape to get a new vaccine out. Like at that point, I've never fully trusted Rand Paul in the same way. I still like him better than most politicians, but something didn't sit right with me. I'm like, that's your narrative, bro? Is that they need to cut more red tape for new vaccines? Like, is that really what you're telling the public? Is Rand Paul sold out, or do you think he just disagrees? Or I'm going to read some of your comments, but I'm definitely skeptical to say the least, and I would say it's okay to ask questions. Remember, these people are supposed to serve you. They're making a lot of money. It's okay to ask them questions. It's okay to be respectfully push back against them and at least get an explanation. Because if you push back a little, maybe they'll explain themselves, and then you could tell if they're authentic or not. Someone said he's the only one who pushed against Fauci. He was good with that. I agree. I definitely saw that. Someone said Rand Paul did that, or oh no, yeah, he's the one who sponsored the bill to get rid of the animal trials. There's some people who love animals more than people, or as much as people. So they say, even some of my supporters say it's okay, like don't hurt animals. They can't consent to it. I get that angle. It's just like, I don't know. I mean, in my view, I just like you're gonna give it to humans before you give it to animals. What? So why? I guess because they could consent. I understand the logic. I just don't know. Someone said, "Wait, if there's no animal trials, who will be the test subjects? Humans. They'll go right to human trials before they test it on animals. That's what they can do now. It's their option. They could still test on animals, but they don't have to. So you would assume that a lot of companies are not going to because they want to get their product out to the market faster. I believe. Let me look it up real quick because I don't want to make the error, but I believe that the booster shots FDA. I believe that the newest booster shots did not have. Let me just read it real quick. Let me see. This was NPR in August 18th, 2022. They said, "What's behind?" Never mind. Let me find the NBC one because I believe they launched it without the human. Okay, here it is. Yeah, this is NBC News, August 31st, 2022. They said FDA to authorize new COVID boosters without trials in people. So somehow the FDA greenlit the COVID boosters for the fall without even human trials. How is that even possible? Maybe under some sort of emergency. Oh, we have an emergency. Who declares the emergency? The HHS secretary. Under Trump, it was a pharmacy lobbyist. Now it's this guy who used to be he's like a California Democrat. I forget what he used to do. Maybe like attorney general or something. But yeah, they're the ones who declare the emergency. And once that's greenlit, maybe they could rush things out with no human trials. Sounds insane, but I don't know. Let me see. Chuck Norris. Thank you, Chuck Norris, for being here. I'm just going to assume you're the real one. I like Rand Paul. I know you're not, but I'm just kidding. I like Rand Paul better than most, but I never trust a politician. They're all bought. Um, I hear you. It's good to be skeptical. Let's see. Read a few more comments. Someone said I saw Trump standing on stage every day with Dr. Anthony Fauci. Trump is in on it. He's friends with Bill Gates. He's friends with Fauci. He did the work of like Trump is so in on it. It couldn't be more obvious. Trump's not even pretending to not be in on it, and people still can't accept it because they're so brainwashed. Trump's like on stage, like I'm the father of the vaccine, and I'll be like, he's the father of the vaccine. They're like, oh my god, why? How could you say that? I didn't say it. He said it. He said he's the father of the vaccine. Though I'll be like, Trump says he wants credit, not Fauci. Oh my gosh, anomaly! How could you do that? Trump's it's not Trump's vaccine, it's Fauci's vaccine. I mean, I'm like, listen to the Fox News interview. Trump says he wants credit for rushing the FDA and Fauci. He wants credit. It's like people are so brain dead, it's ridiculous. So yeah, Trump is absolutely friends with Fauci. He said it on Bill O'Reilly when Bill O'Reilly pushed back. He's like, me and Tony got along. We know you did, Trump. He's in on it. But his base is so brainwashed and it's like filled with a bunch of influencers that don't want to push back. I'm excited to talk to David Harris. That's all I'm gonna say. I like him as a person. We've met. He agreed to come on the show. I don't know when it's gonna happen, but to me, it's like he's case number one of like, friends with Trump, hangs out with Trump, never pushes back against Trump, doesn't agree with what they're doing with Big Pharma, but never ties Donald Trump to it, pretends like he's not part of it when he's the biggest part of it, or at least one of the big. I can't wait for that interview / conversation because I want to know what's going on in his head when he posts about this stuff all the time, but really covers for his buddy Trump. Like it's fine, but at the same time, it's not really fine because if Donald Trump cakewalks back into the White House with a bunch of big pharma shills again, and nobody wants to talk about it because it's art of the deal, like what a perfect politician. Maybe they'll get rid of Biden purposely to put Trump. And I'm not saying they want to, but it does seem like Biden might be on his way out with these classified documents. Maybe they bring in Gavin Newsom. I have no idea anymore. It's really hard to tell. With the word, I was thinking earlier about like the word conspiracy theory because they always use it. Some people say it was created when they killed JFK and everybody knew it wasn't the real narrative. So they said, oh, the conspiracy theorists. That's the word on the street of how they started, that word. But in general, I always think like, we're being lied to about almost everything. History, the present moment, big pharma, like I'm not going to say everything's a lie, but a lot of mainstream narrative and culture is a lie. So what is a conspiracy theorist? It's somebody who knows that we're being lied to and tries to put the pieces together. What makes a good conspiracy theorist would be someone who's like good at connecting the dots and is accurate and fair. And what makes a bad conspiracy theorist? Somebody that loses their mind, believes literally anything. Like I could be like, the vaccine is a plant. And they're like, okay, it's a plant. It's actually snake venom. Okay, it's snake venom. Actually, the vaccine, it doesn't exist. It's a water. Oh, it's water. Like, that makes a bad conspiracy theorist when somebody doesn't have like the intuition or balance to like weigh through all the nonsense and make rational decisions, and they'll just believe anything counterculture just because like it sounds like the vaccine is snake venom mixed with Gatorade. It's like, oh, it's like, but there's nothing inherently wrong with questioning the system. It's just like when you question it, how do you put the pieces back together? And if they really cared, obviously they don't, but if they really cared about stopping conspiracy theories, they just tell the truth and it would be easier to do that. Like they have a hard job. Like when Michael Phelps pushes Pfizer, 90 something % of his comments are all criticism. You know what I'm saying? Like I firmly believe too on YouTube because the up and down system was a great system. I mean, YouTube sold out massive, but you have to understand that there's a reason that there's a thumbs up and thumbs down. If you go to look up a tutorial of how to put a microphone together, okay, you could know by the thumbs up and thumbs down. If it has 99% thumbs up, that means that tutorial was a good tutorial and everybody has decided. It's like the ratings. Imagine if they got rid of the rating system on Amazon. It's pretty good. It's not perfect, but if it's like 4.99 stars, it's probably a good product. If it's a 1 star, probably sucks. Like that, it's a good system. That's why they use it on Amazon. Well, Facebook took away the thumbs up and thumbs down, and they said it was for smaller minority creators, or I don't know what BS excuse they use, but really, I personally believe it was for Joe Biden, the Democrats, and Big Pharma. Because who was really unpopular? Not Joe Rogan. I mean, when Joe Rogan was unpopular on a bad podcast, he saw that and then he redid the podcast because he realized he did a bad job. It was a great correcting system for the people. It was like democracy or whatever they pretend to have. Now that they don't have that on YouTube, who gets protected from that? Big Pharma and Biden, who would have 90 something percent down on everything in the so they block their comments, they hide the thumbs up and thumbs down, and they make it seem like it's so popular when it's not. Reddit's being rigged. They kicked off like it's so obvious what's going on, but I don't think they really have that much power. Like their power doesn't come from the numbers. Their power doesn't come from true support. It doesn't come from God. It's not real. Everything they do is an illusion. And it's like the way they're living is very toxic. Like I'm sure they're miserable because you're always running, you're always lying. Like they can't stop lying. If they tell the truth, their whole narrative falls. Like they've created a group of people who follow them who don't like if you give them too much truth, they freak out at you. Who wants that type of audience? So these types of people, they're always running. It's exhausting. They're not living a fulfilling life. You shouldn't envy the power they have because the power they have is wicked, and it's not coming from a righteous place or an authentic place. So, how long can they do this? Hide thumbs up and thumbs down, like run around acting like this stuff's popular. I don't know. And I don't know if I'll get in trouble for saying this, but I don't really care. When it comes to the vaccine industry, I mean, this is just true. So I'd love to be fact checked because this is a fact. But all vaccine manufacturers know that vaccines have side effects. They know that just like every product. When you watch, they even talk about it, but just not as publicly. When you watch a pharmacy pill commercial, it gives you every side effect. Why? They have to legally do it. But the thing with these COVID vaccines and a lot of other childhood vaccines, either under the PrEP Act for the COVID vaccines or the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act for childhood vaccines, they've been granted from government a liability shield for side effects, injuries, and deaths. So unlike other pharmacy products where every time they talk about it, every time they mention it, they have to bring up the side effects every time for the pills. They don't have to do that for the vaccines. Yes, they have to mention it somewhere, like somewhere in their files, you could find all the side effects of the COVID vaccine or certain childhood vaccines. There are side effects. They know about it. They talk about it. It's real. It's factual. But the thing is, I like the system. I don't like how they run too many pharmacy ads on TV, but I think it's a good rule that at least you have to put all the side effects. But Pfizer, they can run all these ads all the time and not mention the side effects in the commercial. So they know they exist. They shield themselves from liability from it, whether it's one person, 100 person, 10 people, 1,000 people, 100,000 people, a million people, 10 million. I don't know what's going on and I don't know how big the side effects are, but they don't even have to talk about it. Where if Dr. Fauci were running an ad for a pharmacy pill, he would have to say legally, if he was on a commercial or something, he'd have to say, here's what this does. It's good. And in rare cases, this happens, 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 and in some case, death. Fauci would have to say that if he was running an ad for like a pill. But for the vaccine, he's allowed to basically skirt around it. Like he'll be like, okay, myocarditis like kind of happens, but it's really rare. And like even when it happens, it's not that bad. It's like, here's the truth. It's like, yes, that does happen, Fauci, but also in some cases, something worse happens. Even if it's a small amount, something worse does happen sometimes. I don't know how many times, but sometimes. But you don't mention that sometimes because you don't have to mention that sometimes because the way they're pushing their propaganda now with all of these vaccines, they don't have to mention it every single time. Or if they do, they're finding a way to skirt around it, unlike other stuff. And it's very disingenuous. And the only reason they could get away with that is because they have a liability shield that they can't get sued in court. You cannot sue the government, or I guess maybe you could sue if you got fired, or there's certain like ways around the PrEP Act. But for the most part, Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson, they haven't had to settle out, to my knowledge, one court case over a vaccine injury because they're protected under the PrEP Act. But the funny part is they're all suing each other over the money. The government at one point sued Moderna because the government and the NIH owns a part of the Moderna patent. The Moderna created the patent for the mRNA technology in the 2010s. I don't know if it was 2013 or 14 or 15 or 16, but Moderna is claiming that all the mRNA technology that Pfizer's using for the COVID vaccine was patented by Moderna in the 2010s. So they're suing Moderna. So the government successfully, I believe, sued Moderna. Now the government owns part of Moderna, and now Moderna's suing Pfizer. I mean, it's so obvious. This whole scheme is so obvious. It's so clear. And when I do interviews or when I do stuff, I don't beat around the bush. I'll just show you everything I showed you today. I mean, I do my research, guys, and I do this by myself. I don't have a team like everybody else, and I'm sweating like a grease monkey out here, as Ben Stiller said in Dodgeball. But it's like, I'm not making stuff up. That's who Donald Trump. I'm showing you. I'm not just like winging it. Oh, it's this, that. Like, no, he picked a pharmacy lobbyist for his HHS. We'll go through all of them. Ready? He picked a GlaxoSmithKline guy who left to go to Pfizer to run the FDA, who's now part of the Twitter files, Scott Gottlieb. That's who Trump chose. Why did he choose those? Am I going to make up a fake theory I can't prove? No, I mean, I don't know. He's taking money from Pfizer. So is Donald Trump sold out to Big Pharma? I mean, obviously, what part of his words, actions, anything he's done, he sold out to Big Pharma, but nobody wants to talk about it. Too bad. You know, I'm showing just screenshots of everything because I don't want, and the reason I do that is multiple reasons, but the main reason is I don't want you to just believe me because you like me. Thank you for liking me. If you don't, I apologize. I don't know what I did, but in general, I appreciate when people like me. I don't want people to hate me, obviously, but I don't want you to believe me just because you like my comedy or something. I want to show you the truth. I want you to feel confident about what you're saying because I'm not just winging it, making you look like an idiot. I'll show you every time so you know. You can go print out these articles. If someone says, oh, no, that's not true that the last booster, was about to get approved without human trials. It's in NPR. It's in NBC News. It is true. And I want to show people it's true so I can prove I'm not just talking out of my ass. Like, all of this stuff's confirmed. We're connecting the dots with reason and proof and evidence. So that's why I do it. And also, I mean, it's good for the fact checkers, although sometimes they don't care. You could have all the proof under the sun. It's like some nose-picking loser, some AI robot or something. It's like, sorry, you can't. Like, I did a honeybee vaccine Instagram video, and a little like notification popped up about the COVID vaccine. It's like, this is what they're doing on Instagram. It's not even blue-haired liberals. It's artificial intelligence. They have artificial intelligence. I could just tell by looking at how it works that anytime you mention the word vaccine, whether you type it, it scans it. If you say it, it hears it. And anytime you say the word vaccine, it literally puts a little notification. So even if you're not even talking about COVID-19, you're not even talking about the COVID vaccines or mRNA tech, you're literally like, this is a factual article about honeybee vaccines that they're feeding to the queen bee to put something in her ovaries. Like, oh, here's where you can get information about the COVID vaccine. I mean, what COVID vaccine? It's like, I'm not even talking about COVID or that vaccine. It's like they just have AI, artificial intelligence, scanning the word vaccine, whether it's audio or visual, and then they put a little notification on anything on Instagram that says the word vaccine. Thank you, Robert. He said, love you, Owen Crow 777 and others pushing through the deception. Thank you so much. I haven't heard of Crow, but I'll check it out. And I know Owen, obviously. Been on his show several times. Someone said, bro, they were hard on me in 2020 in the YouTube comments. After 30 seconds, a comment would get deleted. Said VMAT2. Yeah, I hear you, my man. It's 2020. They were definitely going harder for a while in 2021. But I don't know. I got banned from TikTok last year in December, and that was kind of shocking, but not really. But I was like, I'm so clean with my reporting. Like, I'm not, and it's just annoying when they do this because I'm like, everything I purposely show people. I'm like, I'm not just making up a theory. This is in mainstream news. This is proven. There's video footage of it, and they still delete my TikTok. It's like they don't care. Someone said my boy Trump saved hundreds of millions of lives. He saved tens of millions of lives with his Pfizer deals. He saved hundreds of millions of lives, billions of lives, trillions of lives. I saved quadrillions of lives. I went in the future and saved a bajillions of lives. Anomaly, you don't understand. Trump took a time machine from Nikola Tesla, went to the future and saved a triple trillion billion lives. I mean, the only way to save lives from the future, Anomaly, is to put Big Pharma in charge of the government and let them shut the country down. That's the only way to fight the corruption. I mean, keep your friends closer. It's like, oh my, I can't go through another 4 years of this. Seriously. It's like, please, anybody else. It's actually at this point almost strategic to get a politician on the right that people don't like. It's like Kevin McCarthy. They're like, we're holding your feet to the fire. Good. That's great. That's what you should do when these guys are running the country terribly. But with Donald Trump, it's like, oh, he's going to lead me to the promised land with his big pharma friends. Like, no, why? Like, how is this guy going to win at this point? I mean, most people like DeSantis more than Trump. But even with DeSantis, everybody wants to criticize him. It's like, good, he deserves scrutiny too. I think people are more interested in holding DeSantis accountable than Trump for some reason. I don't know. I mean, I do know to a certain extent, but it's like, get somebody in there that people, obviously you want to trust them somewhat, but really don't trust them. They're politicians. They're taking money. They're all raising money. They're all hanging out with rich people. And a lot of people in the political sphere, it's fun for them. They're hanging out with Tucker Carlson and Donald Trump. It's fun. They're living a dream. It's like they don't want to rock the boat that much because they're comfortable with like how it's happening because they get like Kevin McCarthy. Yeah, cool. But the people are not getting to hang out there. So let's call out the lobbying. All right, a few more. I want to keep this at least under 50 minutes. Someone said Anomaly said he won't watch it. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Probably a certain documentary, but I don't, which one? Someone said I used to love Trump so much. Well, the issue is just that none of the influencers want to really like talk about it. And like that comment I read, it's just like, oh, it's like it's okay to call out Mitch McConnell when he takes $1 million from Pfizer. We have to do that. But when Donald Trump takes $1 million from Pfizer, we shouldn't do that. Like, what? Oh, the Died Suddenly documentary? I mean, it's getting massive without me watching it or not. I feel like I get the gist of it. I'm sure I could learn some more, but it's just, I don't know. I know a lot about that topic. So I don't, I'm sure I agree with a lot of what it says. Like I just don't feel like watching a 2-hour documentary about vaccine injuries, but I'm not like stopping people from watching it. In fact, it's somewhat of a, promotion, just talking about it. Everybody knows about it. It's available. It just doesn't, to be honest, I can't even think of the last time I watched like a 2-hour documentary, probably like early last year. What do I think about the CDC linking strokes to the vaccine? I saw that something about they're saying over 65, they're looking into one of the vaccines for stroke. I didn't include that in today's show because I had so much work done already that I didn't feel like adding that. But I mean, I think there are actually some good people at the CDC and the FDA. I mean, I know there are. There's constantly like people in the advisory board and stuff being like, yo, this is totally wrong. And then the top of the administration is like, well, we don't really care about your opinion anymore. We're going to greenlight it anyway. So, maybe some of the good people at the CDC, I'm sure they're in the minority, but, enough evidence came up where it couldn't be ignored. So anything of them admitting that something is going on, like, is a good step. So even if it's a small step, I think it's good because they know every medicine has side effects. Every vaccine has side effects. They know. It's just the way the vaccine industry works is just sketchier. They get a lot of liability shield because the logic is if you give tens of millions of people or kids this vaccine or whoever you give it to, there's going to be some issues. And when there are, we don't want to get sued into oblivion for them. The original logic was like, if we vaccinate 10 million kids and 20 of them get hurt or something, we don't want to ruin the vaccine for everyone else. So we'll protect ourselves from liability. It's nice in theory, but I think that paves the way for big pharma corruption. Because then if that 10 becomes 100, or that 100 becomes 1,000, or that 1,000 becomes 10,000, or that 10,000 becomes 100,000, or I don't know what the numbers are, but if those numbers start rising, big pharma doesn't have to talk about it. And I'm sure that the Died Suddenly documentary talked about this. I can't be sure because I haven't seen it, but VAERS reporting, this is important, was created by the government. So if that's the system created by the government to track side effects and adverse events, you got to use it. And it's got to be part of the public discussion when it comes to it. When you say VAERS reporting, Democrats crack down on you, the establishment cracks down on you. They act as if it's some make-believe Alex Jones thought when he did DMT or something. It's like it's a literal government process of tracking the injuries, and they're using big pharma propaganda money to basically act as if that's kooky, and it's working because they're buying off Michael Phelps and Pink and Kentucky and Trump and They're buying everybody off. It's almost like a what's it called? A zombie movie, except like everybody's getting bought off by Pfizer. And you're like one of the last people when you're like thinking rationally, you're not brainwashed by Democrats, you're not brainwashed by Republicans or Trump. You have your opinions, but you're thinking critically. You're not buyable by big pharma. And this is the new zombie movies. Like everybody around you is getting bought by Pfizer. They're like, sorry, dude. I mean, Pfizer bought me a new car. Pfizer gave me $1 million. I mean, Pfizer's building a new Republican building in Kentucky. Pfizer's giving me money for my inauguration. Well, I'm not directly being paid by Pfizer, but the guy likes being paid by Pfizer. So I don't want to talk. It's like a zombie movie. We're all like, is there anyone left? Are there any real people not bought by Pfizer walking the streets that can openly talk about theirs reporting or it's so odd. All right, I definitely want to keep this under an hour. I went too long, but since I already went over 50, I got a couple more minutes. Someone said, "What are you telling us? Did Pfizer buy Trump for $1 million?" That's like someone would say, "Buy me for $10." Make us understand how you're thinking, please. All right, I'm going to repeat this again because for some reason people don't get it. When Donald Trump ran for office, he said multiple times, I'm actually making a mini documentary about this. He said, I don't need their money. I'm turning down their money because when people pay you, they get something out of it. So even if you're a billionaire, how much of Donald Trump's $1 billion did he spend on his own stuff? I think he raised over $1 billion or so from people and other stuff. He's not using his own money. Even Donald Trump can be controlled. So, if Donald Trump didn't want, he could have turned down Pfizer's $1 million. They're not just giving it to him for free. So Mitch McConnell has a lot of money too. You think Mitch McConnell can't use his own money? He doesn't want to use his own money. So he gets the Pfizer money. And when he gets the Pfizer money, he does something. Like, are you so brainwashed by Donald Trump that you think him taking $1 million from Pfizer is not going to influence his decision? When I've already proved to you, and I'm going to prove in my mini documentary, that it did influence his decision. He went from a skeptic of vaccines and a promoter of vaccine-injured people to a big pharma shill who's friends with Bill Gates, Fauci, and a bunch of pharmacy lobbyists. Are you brain dead? Are you blind? Are you stupid? Do you have a Donald Trump doll in your hand? Like, what part do you not get? Do you think that he took $1 million from Pfizer and that did nothing? They just gave him the money for free and Donald Trump just threw it in a corner? No, he doesn't use his own money for his campaign. He takes money from Bank of America, from Pfizer, and the entire campaign he ran is, I'm not going to take their money. He one time tweeted, and this is going to be in my mini documentary as well, that Sheldon Adelson, who passed away recently, he's the biggest Republican donor, gives hundreds of millions of dollars. Ready? We're talking big boy money now, hundreds of millions of dollars. Donald Trump tweeted, Sheldon Adelson is going to make Marco Rubio his perfect little puppet. That's why he's investing in Rubio over me. Once Rubio dropped out, Sheldon Adelson eventually started investing in Donald Trump, gave him tens of millions of dollars, gave the Republican Party hundreds of millions of dollars. Is that enough money for you? Tens and hundreds of millions of dollars? Once Sheldon Adelson gave Donald Trump the money, Donald Trump gave his wife a Presidential Medal of Freedom and then passed speech laws that said it was basically now against rules at universities to criticize Israel. Do you think that tens and hundreds of millions of dollars, because Donald Trump's rich, he's taking the money and it's not affecting him? He's not using his own money to run for office. He's taking money also. So if Marco Rubio can turn into Sheldon Adelson's perfect little puppet for that money, when Donald Trump takes the money, we shouldn't talk about it because you're brainwashed by it? Like, what? Come on. It's so obvious. And it's not like he took $1 million from Pfizer and didn't hire pharmacy lobbyists. It's not like he hired real doctors and innovative thinkers or Robert Kennedy. He got the money from Pfizer and then turned his back on vaccine skeptics and filled the swamp with lobbyists and executives from pharma and people on Pfizer and GlaxoSmithKline boards. The proof is all there. If he would have took $1 million from Pfizer, and then he did all the right things. He never ran around the country selling the vaccine. He never was in on Operation Warp Speed. He never hired a bunch of pharmacy lobbyists. Then you'd have a point. I'd be like, yeah, no, I mean, he did take $1 million. That is unethical. I still think it influenced him to some extent. But clearly that $1 million from Pfizer didn't influence him that much. Like, it's clear. It's not clear. The opposite is clear. You're not living in reality. I don't think it was just that money. There's other things involved too. I'm not going to say anything because I can't prove this, but Bill Gates was friends with Jeffrey Epstein, or he talked to Jeffrey Epstein, or he worked with. I mean, Bill Gates was always meeting with Jeffrey Epstein, and Donald Trump was always meeting with Bill Gates. He met with Bill Gates in 2018, and Bill Gates gave him an idea about a universal flu vaccine plan, and then Donald Trump passed it through executive order in 2019. Everything I'm saying is going to be in my mini documentary. I'm not saying anything, but it's like Donald Trump's working with Pfizer, working with Moderna, working with Johnson & Johnson, working with Fauci, hiring pharmacy lobbyists, taking meetings with Bill Gates, turning his ideas with Bill Gates into an executive order in 2019, giving $20 billion to Big Pharma, running around the country selling their vaccine, on stage with the CEO of Johnson & Johnson. Like, what part of this are you not getting? How brainwashed are Trump worshipers? It's pathetic. He's like, wake up. Like, what part of all that says he's not sold out? So was it just the $1 million? No. Is Mitch McConnell's whole life revolving around that $1 million from Pfizer? No. Mitch McConnell makes probably tens or hundreds of millions of dollars in money. So that $1 million is not Mitch McConnell's whole worldview. But you think that $1 million going to Mitch McConnell's Republican Party in Kentucky's not going to influence his decisions of what he does and doesn't do with Big Pharma? Of course it is. And the same thing is true with Donald Trump. It's not his whole world, his whole agenda, but it's part of it. It's so obvious. It's so simple. It's sad that 2.5 years later, with all the evidence, all the proof, all the reports, that people still can't put the puzzles together because they're brainwashed by the father of the vaccine. And I did not give Donald Trump the nickname the father of the vaccine. He gave himself that nickname. So if I call Donald Trump the father of the vaccine and you get bothered by it, ask yourself why you're bothered by the nickname that Donald Trump gave himself on Fox News and said, they keep calling me the father of the vaccine. I guess I am the father of the vaccine because I was the one who pushed it. So I guess they want me to do public service announcement because I am that. But don't call him that. Why are you in denial? Wake up. I'm not going to repeat this 1,000 times, or maybe I will. But I'm going to do a new doc in general, but people got to snap out of it because the Republican Party is going nowhere. It's the same as if the left wing was like stuck up on Obama. I mean, the left wing's a mess, but it's like Obama. I mean, who cares if Obama does all that stuff? I like him. He doesn't need the money. He can sell a book. Like, come on. Someone said Trump praised Klaus Schwab at World Economic Forum too. Yeah, there's a video of him at World Economic Forum where he says Klaus is doing a great job. And if that was Mitch McConnell, every right-wing influencer would be posting it. If that was Ron Paul or Rand Paul, people would post it. If that was Nancy Pelosi, people would post it. But when Donald Trump's at World Economic Forum saying Klaus is doing a great job, guess who posts it? Me, a couple other people. Guess who doesn't post it? All the people who hang out at Mar-a-Lago with Trump. Weird. It's almost like they're covering up the corruption because they're in on it. It's like, well, I don't want to talk about Marco Rubio because, I'm friends with him and I wear suits and go to dinner with him. Okay, so you're just another political liar loser too. That's cool. But, at a certain point, people are going to see through it. So God bless you guys. God bless your family. God bless America. God bless the world. For the love of God and America, when politicians take millions of dollars from big pharma or lobbyists, and then they do what the lobbyists want them to do, for the love of God, whether it's Donald Trump, me, anyone, please question the money. Please. Okay. If I do a Pfizer ad, don't tell me, well, Anomaly makes money doing other stuff. He doesn't need it. Question the fact that I'm selling it like Donald Trump's selling the vaccine, for the love of God, whether it's Trump, Biden, or anybody. It's like, please. Stop being so brainwashed by the orange vaccine salesman that you think it's not a big deal when he does something that other people do and you're annoyed at. It's so weird. It's so bizarre. And it's like a right-wing mind virus at this point. People got to snap out of it. Thank you guys. God bless you. Have a beautiful day. I'll be back soon. All my links are always at dreamrarelinks.com. Telegram page, Rumble, BitChute, everything. Dreamrare.com. We have blue hats. I think the black beanies are sold out. We're getting more, but more products, more stuff this year. And possibly I might partner with certain companies that I actually like and believe in the next couple of months. We'll see, but I'm very picky. So if I'm actually selling it, it means I've used it and I like it. So thank you guys. Have a good one. I'll be back very